you salty sailors. Time to raise anchor and set sail for your best scrawny life. Arr!
Have you struggled to lose weight? That stubborn belly fat that just won't go? Well, good news, because now there's multiple myeloma. Yes, if you want to lose 10 pounds, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, if you want to lose it all, just straight down to a scurvy old skeleton, then multiple myeloma can take you as far as you want to go. You won't need to worry about carb cravings or avocados or any of that keto, paleo nonsense, because with multiple myeloma, you'll be nauseated most of the time. But you must call now to learn about this 10-second revolutionary bedtime technique. Because greedy executives in the weight loss industry have filed a motion in court every day to get this video taken down. So call now while you still can, and ask your doctor about multiple myeloma. Although we've had some rain, you can see the water level here. Still about 3 feet below normal.
This is what would be called a white crappie due to the vertical nature of the spot pattern and the prominent dark spot on the gill plate.
That's a nice one.
You can see it a little bit better. The spots are kind of arranged in a series of vertical bands. That's the white crappie. Now, I don't know if that actually constitutes a species, because it seems like it's likely they can probably interbreed with each other. Or if it could be better described as a mode, or a set of genes that's triggered by certain environmental factor, a stress of some sort perhaps. Another white crappie here. You can see the vertical nature of the spot pattern and that prominent dark spot on the gill plate. This one here looks like possibly a black crappie. Unfortunately, it escaped at the last moment. Not that those paper miles do. The geese seem to think it's pretty funny, but no worries, there are plenty of crappie in this lake. So this here is indeed a black crappie, and you'll notice the random nature of the spot pattern and the less prominent spot on the gill plate. Looks like we have another black crappie here with the random pattern and the less prominent spot on the gill plate. As you can see, many of the shoreline blowdowns where crappie normally would spawn have been left high and dry by the low water left behind by the drought. Another black crappie here. And although some of the crappie were spawning along the shoreline, especially where there were overhanging trees, a lot of them were spawning off the end of points and underwater humps, this being an old coal mine. So it does have a lot of points and underwater humps and features such as that. But like I said, I don't know if it's categorized as a species, as two different species, but whether that would hold up in a strictly scientific sense, I'm not actually sure. I mean, it's one of those things that kind of begs the question, how do you define a species? this being another black crappie with the random spots. And here we have the white crappie once more. Notice the vertical arrangement of the pattern and the prominent spot on the gill plate.
That's an 11.
But I tend to think that this is rather a set of genes.
Ooh, that's a white.
That can be triggered. It's like a mode. White crappie again here with the vertical bands.
That's a decent one.
Black crappie with the random pattern. In other words, you might have two black crappies that produce white crappies as offspring. If the parents had encountered whatever factor triggers that mode in the offspring. Another black crappie here. So there seems to be roughly 50-50 or maybe 60-40 in favor of black crappies, but a fairly even mixture of the two in this lake. Another black crappie there. Here we have Osmorrhiza longistylus anis root. I would like to show you how the styles protrude beyond the petals a little bit, but the flowers were not open, and my camera doesn't have macro focus anyway. But at least the May-apples are in bloom. The ones with two leaves are the ones that bloom and will later produce fruit. A good little stand of May-apples there. There's Geranium maculatum with the five-petaled flower and the deeply incised leaves. Could perhaps be confused for Dame's Rocket or something like that, but that would of course have a four-petaled flower instead of five. There we have Allium trichocum, the wild leek. You'll notice the red on the stem of the leaves. And this is the narrow-leaved wild leek. It does not have that red, but it does have an onion or leek-like smell if you should crush the leaves. And similar to Allium trichocum, it does not have leaves and flowers at the same time. And there we have some auricularia, that wood ear jelly fungus. Now that we've finally had a little rain. Alright, we're taking the Oru kayak deep into the swamps. This is the Lost Lake area of Purple Martin Park. This, of course, is another old mine pit, but it's one along the Raccoon River. And when the river is high enough, it will flow through a small channel and fill this lake up. So this lake has plenty of brush, flooded plants and so forth along the perimeter. Our first contact is a large female gar, and I only had a 408 crappie rod, so kind of bringing a knife to a gunfight here. Powerful tail slap there, these fish having weaponized both the head and tail area of their bodies. Trying to back away from those shoreline tangles, keep the gar in the open water. Beast of a fish, big female. They haven't started spawning here yet, but it can't be too far away. Wow, she's bending the rod. She's putting a bend in the old 408 right there. These fish generally fight at the surface, a kind of a short fight, acrobatic. The fact that this one is diving and pulling just shows how different it is than most of the gar. Never got a jump out of her, but she wanted to dive. for some reason. Big female. At this point, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to attempt to land this fish. It's probably a 3-footer. It's stronger than one of my arms alone. I mean, just look at it pull. I would not be able to hang on to it long. I wasn't too sure about grabbing it and pulling it into the Oru kayak. It would deliver quite a beating. So I thought about possibly hopping out and fighting it from shore. That proved to be kind of a bad idea. As we mentioned before, they flooded debris here and sticks and so forth on the shoreline. I made one last attempt to grab it. And she broke one tine of the treble hook and got away. There's another one, the smaller one, that also got away. I hadn't realized yet that the treble hook was broken. Another escapee. This Lost Lake area is smaller and shallower and therefore warmer than the rest of the lake, and the fish, the gar particularly, were active. Non-stop action on the smaller fish. But after this one, another one had gotten away, I think I did finally realize there was something wrong with the fly. Yes, this is in some way fly fishing. It's mid-May, the carp are spawning, and the gar will probably start spawning soon themselves. Jacked him. Nice jump. There we go. There's another jump for you. Nice. Well, it's a smaller one, a juvenile. We'll bring him to heel here. Clamp it out. There we go. So, as soon as he stops trying to tail slap me in the face, I'll show you the tail spots here. There they are. Those markings along the side will fade with age. So that is what indicates that this is a juvenile fish. And here's a close-up look at the dental work. Pop that hook out. Of course, gar have never been stocked, or the population has never been homogenized through the efforts of some sort of fish hatchery, or stocking program. Therefore, these are wild fish. They've been wild fish since the end of the Ice Age. And there are color variations in the population of these fish that occur naturally. There can be a jet black, a melanistic gar, a really wild fish to see. And there can also be kind of a golden yellow, and there's kind of a gunmetal blue sort of color too that you see in the red rock population sometimes. And of course the spots, some will carry their spots on into adulthood. Most will lose those spots along their tail as they age. But no one suggests that these differences in appearance constitutes a different species of short-nosed gar. Since there has never been a significant genetic bottleneck, there is still enough genetic potential in the population that the children do not necessarily resemble their parents. There's a good spot pattern of that fish is likely to keep its spots on into adulthood. And you'll notice this fish has a little of that yellow color. Look at its lower jaw. How yellow. That's not just the light. It's a slightly different color than most of the gar, and there can be some that are really golden yellow, which would be an albinistic color variant, but not a new species. Another one popped off. Well, you can't win them all. See you next time.